Okay, so we're getting pretty close here, and you could leave it like this if you wanted to, but I think I'll just try to add a little more rust to it, just so it matches the tank here a bit better. Okay, so we'll go back out. Alright, I still have this one Rust 3.1 that I haven't used yet, so I'm going to open that up. And this one's not fantastic, as you can see. It's a lot closer up than I'd like it to be, but we'll see if we can make use of it anyway. Okay, so let's just copy the whole thing and close it. And we'll just paste it above the roof metal. Alright. And we'll do, a couple of tiles again. Alright, so let's get in here. Let's turn off the ambient occlusion. Turn on our guide. Alright, and because that detail is fairly large, I don't want to leave it like this, so it's going to look pretty, bad. Okay, so let's do Control T, and we'll just scale it down until it just fits the size we need. Alright, I don't want to, go too small and then try to patch them together, because that's probably going to be a real nightmare to do on this particular texture. Okay, so I'm just going to go until it matches the height. Alright, we'll say Enter. Okay, and let's just move this around a bit. Alright, I don't know if I want to have this huge rust mark on the roof, so let's just move it around a bit. Okay, maybe like that, and put it anywhere you want. Okay, and we'll paste it again. Let's copy it first, Control A, C, then paste, and then we'll just cover up the bottom over here. Alright, same thing here. Just going to make sure I have it lined up between the two UV islands, and we'll do Control T and just flip it horizontally. Okay, and again, we're not really going to see this, so I'm not going to worry too much about it, just for the sake of speed. But you can take more time if you want to, and adjust. All right, so let's get in here so we can see the bottom. All right, turn our UVs off for a sec. All right, I'm just going to turn the AO on. Okay, so the seam there isn't really noticeable, and I might actually take some of this off anyway. Alright, so let's just combine both the layers together. 2 and 3, Control E. Alright, we'll zoom back out here a couple of times. You can do that by right clicking. Okay, we'll go back to our selection layer and just reselect it. Okay, and we'll just hit delete on our layer 3 to get rid of the rest of the rust. Okay. Alright, so let's play with the blend modes here. I'm just going to try let's try overlay. Alright, let's try maybe soft light. Okay, I don't want to use multiply here because it's going to be wicked dark if we do that. Okay, way too dark. Okay, so let's go down and we'll just use soft light here. And I'll just leave it at 100% for now. Okay, so let's just name this layer, we'll just call it Roof Rust 2. Okay. And I'm really only doing it this way just for speed. If you wanted to take more time, you could really be careful with where you put your rust. Okay, and obviously, it is a slanted roof. The water is going to pretty much run right off it. So, it might just gather rust in certain spots, maybe around the bottom of the pinnacle, or around these ridges, or maybe on the bottom of the edge there. If I had more time, I might actually try to get rid of some of this with a mask and then just put it in certain places, but I really don't have time to do it, so I'll just leave it over the whole thing like this. So let's go down to the pinnacle here. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of the UVs for a sec and turn the AO back on. Okay, and I think it's a little too rusty looking. Again, water's not really going to collect on the sides of this. It might around the base a little bit, but probably not all over it because it is slanted. Alright, so it's probably really not going to rust out that much. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just add a mask to this rust layer. Okay, and we'll select it, and with black, I'm just going to take a soft paintbrush again, and I'm just going to paint it off some of these pieces. Okay, so I'm just going to go over the side here. Okay, and I'm going to just paint over the base while I'm at it. Okay, and this is the underneath edge and the inside of the top. So get rid of it on there too. Alright, yeah, let's zoom back out. Okay, so we'll just do a save here and check it out, and we can make adjustments if we have to. Alright, back over to max. Okay, and you can see it's fairly intense here. Alright, let's get in a little closer. Alright, quite intense. Alright, just do it from a little closer up. Okay, so what I might do is tone down the orange a little bit. Or you could go the opposite way, you could leave it like that and actually bring out the color on the tank so it's a little bit more of an even match, but I think I'll just take it down because it's too intense. Okay, so let's go back. Alright, we'll zoom in again. Alright, so on the rust layer we'll go up and do image adjustments. Alright, hue saturation. Open that up, and I'm just going to take the saturation down a bit so it's not so orange. Okay, don't want to lose all the color, but we'll take it down a bit. Right, maybe negative 35 or so on saturation should be fine, and we'll say okay. Alright, and let's resave and see if that looks a little better. Okay, so not quite as insanely orange. Right, I'm just going to zoom out and actually do a render of this whole thing. Alright, so we can judge a little easier. So we'll turn active shade back on. Okay, so it could definitely be better. But again, just for the sake of speed, I'll probably leave mine like this and we'll just move on. I'm just going to actually get in there and check out the pinnacle up here. Okay, so we have some rust on there, and it probably would maybe rust out in the seam here. Okay, so let's go back over. And if you wanted to, you know, add a little bit back, all you have to do is go to your mask, select it, and then change your color here to white. Alright, and just paint around, and you'll get some of that rust to come back. Okay. Alright, a little hard to see here because I'm in so close, but it's coming back. I'm just going to actually shrink my brush size down a little bit, and just go along the bottom on this side. Right, you can see it coming back there. Alright, and just maybe along this ridge too. Okay, so let's save. And we'll check it out here. Okay, so a little bit came back, and again, this, you know, this will depend on the quality you want yours to be. You know, if you don't want it this trash, you don't have to make it this trashed. Alright, just looking at the roof here, I'm still not loving it. Okay, but let's save one more time, and we'll go back over and just make the final tweaks. Alright, so let's just fit this back to screen, and yeah, I think I'm going to try to get rid of some of the rust. Alright, so let's zoom in on it, and we'll turn our guide back on just so we can see where our ridges are, and I'm just going to paint in the mask here on the roof rust 2 layer with black and a paintbrush. Okay, let's go over, and you could use a soft brush for it. I might actually just make it something more regular. Alright, let's grab maybe this guy here. And we'll just go in here and just paint in with black and just remove some of this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible. Alright, so I'm just going to take it out of kind of the center portions between the ridges and keep it more to the bottom, you know, half or third of it, and closer to the ridges. Alright, just going to shrink the brush down a bit. Alright, so I'm just going to randomly remove pieces of it, and I'm going to try to get rid of a lot of this white crap in here because I think it looks a little weird on the model. Alright, so just work one section at a time. And I've actually switched to my tablet for this. Alright, that's why you don't hear the mouse clicking, but you can do it with a mouse. If you have a tablet, it'd probably be easier to use that, just so you have a little more control, but it's definitely doable with a mouse. Alright, so let's just get rid of this stuff here. Right over here, this is a little too dense, so we'll just knock this down a bit too. And just keep it to the sides. Take some of this out of there maybe. And you can always turn your UVs off to see what you're actually doing. Or you can even look in the mask layer if you want to. If you just go into the channels, you can turn your mask on. Alright, see where you're painting, and you can even paint right in here if it's easier. Okay, either way you want to do it, just turn that off. Okay, turn our UVs back on. Alright, just make sure your mask is active before you paint. If I had more time, I would definitely be more careful with how I did this, but you can take, a lot more time and really get it where you want it. And it's just a good idea, when you're texturing stuff like this, just to really think about it if it was a real object, where you typically see that rust. And I think it would probably, be down around the edge, on the bottom maybe, or along these ridges, because if this was sheet metal, it would obviously be crimped together there on the seams, and some water might collect in there and rust it out. Or up here at the top underneath the pinnacle, right, you probably get some rust streaks up there. I am going to paint some grime up there after we're done this, but you could leave a little rust up there if you want to. Right, let's get rid of this white stuff, not loving that. Take some of that out of there maybe. And I have the pen set to pressure sensitivity for the opacity, so if I go light, it lowers the opacity down, so it's not to full strength. So if you're using a mouse, you can just alter your opacity up here, just switch it up randomly. I might take some of this out here. Let's get rid of some of that. This stuff here. And you don't have to get rid of all the white little parts. Some of that rust might start to kind of oxidize and it might turn white or whitish. So if some of it's on there, it's probably not going to matter. I'm just going to get rid of the really intense parts of it. Let's get rid of some of that. Okay, let's turn the UVs off for a sec. Alright, so this white stuff here, I'm just going to remove that, I think. Just take that off. I think it's going to look a little weird if it's white on the ridges there at the top. Alright, so just paint some of it out. And again, I'm just looking for anything that really stands out as, looking weird. This probably really wasn't the best rust map to use for this. I probably could have found a better one. So yeah, if you have another one, you could even switch it out altogether and avoid having to do, a lot of this work here. Alright, so I'm just going to do it like that, maybe. Okay, and we'll save and we'll go back into Max and just see if this is an improvement. Okay, so let's save. We'll jump back over. Okay, so you can see it here. I'm just going to turn on active shade. Okay, so it's not so crazy. Alright, let's just spin around a bit and take a look at the other side. Alright, a little too intense maybe on the back. I might paint some of this out in a second, but overall I think it's an improvement. Alright, and again, this all goes back to how you want your particular model to look. Okay, so that's better. So let's save. Alright, we'll go back. And I'm just going to remove, I think this is the chunk here I want to get rid of. Alright, let's just get rid of it. Get rid of that. Alright, maybe take this chunk out here. Okay, and again, you can always check out your mask anytime just by turning it on in the channels, and you can see a little easier what you're doing. Okay, so you can see some of this isn't full opacity here. Alright, so yeah, if you're using the mouse, you can just alter that as you go to vary up the intensity of it. Okay, so let's go back, just turn this on, and I think that's all I'm going to do on this, because again, this tutorial is getting fairly lengthy here, and I don't want to take forever doing this. Alright, so we'll save one more time, go back, just take one last look. Okay, so that's good. Good enough. Alright, so save again. And we'll go back. Okay, so I'm just going to paint some quick dirt in here. Alright, so let's make a new layer just above our roof rust 2, and I'm going to change the blending mode for that layer to multiply. Okay, we'll go over, and for the color I'm just going to use maybe like a medium to light gray, like that. Alright, and we could use this brush. I might actually change it up and use just a soft round brush. Alright, maybe this 45 one. Alright, so I'm just going to turn the UVs on. Alright, just so we can see our ridges, and it's going to be a little hard to see, so I'm just going to change the opacity on the UV layer to maybe like 10%, okay, just so we can barely see it. Alright, so we'll go back to our layer 2, and I'm just going to lower the opacity on my brush to maybe like 20%, okay, and just quickly add some grime in here. Alright, just going to zoom in a little closer. Alright, so we'll just quickly start painting. Okay, I don't want it to be totally overdone. Normally you'd get this, kind of thing from an ambient occlusion map, but ours came out really, really bright on the roof, so we kind of lost any detail. Alright, let's take the opacity up a little bit more. Alright, so I'm just going to stick kind of to the top of it and just kind of follow some of the ridges down. Alright, so just get some larger soft stuff in there, and then I'll go back in with a more intense small brush and just add some more intense details. Alright, shrink the brush size, and again you can shrink your brush size with the square brackets. Alright, so we just follow a couple of these down. I would think dirt would collect kind of along these ridges. And you could use some color for this too. If you wanted to use like a rusty color, you could. And normally I'd take a lot more time to do this, but don't really have the time, so I'm just going to do it as quick as I possibly can. Alright, you can always turn your guide layer off too, to kind of see what's going on. And I'm actually using the tablet to do this, so I have the pressure sensitivity, but if you're using a mouse, you might want to just vary your opacity on the brush just to get some more randomness in there. Okay, so really subtle. Okay, and some of it's going to probably be covered up by the pinnacle anyway, so I'm just going to hit around the center there. Okay, like that. Alright, maybe just take this up just a tiny bit. Alright, let's just add some more in there quickly. Alright, let's turn off the guide. Okay, so the effect is subtle, as you can see, but it'll just add a little more detail to it. Okay, so let's do a save, and we'll just see if that looks okay in max. Alright, jump back over, take a quick look, we should see it up here. Okay, so even though we went pretty light in Photoshop, you can see it's fairly noticeable here. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and turn my UVs back on. Alright, I'm going to take a smaller brush, shrink it down, and just up the opacity a bit. Okay, and I'm just going to go along the ridges here. Just add a little more in. Alright, you can even make your color darker if you want to, but I'm just going to take the opacity up to 100%. Alright, let's turn these off for a sec. Alright, let's actually change the color. Okay, I'm just going to darken it up, and we are using multiply on our layer blend, so it's going to be darker. Okay, that's probably too dark. Alright, so lower the opacity down. just going to hit it in a few places, maybe along the ridges as well. I'm going to come down here a little bit, just randomly. I just want to look like there's some scum and dirt built up in these crevices here. I'm going to turn the guide off. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. And if you do it too much, you can either add a mask and paint with white to get rid of it, or you can just erase it. Alright, so I'm just going to go grab the eraser, use a small brush here, and just take some of this out. Alright, I don't think this is lining up too good. Alright, just lower the opacity here quickly. And I'm just going to take some of that out. It's a little too intense, I think, right there, and it's not really lining up with the UVs, so get rid of it. Alright, just turn this back on. I'm just going to go along and just remove some of that stuff, just a bit. Okay, so let's turn our guide layer off and we'll just do another save. And I think that's pretty much all I'm going to do, but again, take more time and really, get in there and add it where you want it. Alright, take one last look here. Alright, so let's rotate around. I'm just going to exit active shade for a sec. Here, I'll spin up here and just take a quick look. Let's render from over here. Okay, so I might tone down a little bit there, but let's just do a save here. And we'll go back, and I'm just going to take it down a little bit. And turn our UVs back on. Okay, I think that's this part right here. Okay, so with the eraser, I'm just going to take away a little bit of that. Alright, turn the guide off. Tone that down a little bit, maybe. Okay, so we'll save again. Alright, go back one more time. And just see how it looks. Okay, so better, okay? And I'm going to just leave it like that because I don't want to spend too much time doing it. Alright, so we'll save now that we have it pretty much right. Alright, go back to Photoshop. And if it's still too intense, you can always, lower your opacity up here to the layer and just tone it down that way as well. Okay, but I'm going to leave it, and let's just give this a name. We'll just call it roof dirt, so we know what it is. Okay, and we'll just save one more time now that we have everything organized. And we just have one layer left, and we'll be finally done. Alright, so let's fit this back on screen, and the last thing we're going to do is just add a rust stain around the tank here on the wood, okay, because obviously if this tank was this rusty, some of that rust is going to, bleed into the wood around it, okay, so we'll just add that as the last finishing touch, and then we'll finally be done with this guy. Okay, so let's go back out to our texture source folder, and I'm just going to open up Rust 1 again. Alright, and we'll just crop off the top piece with the crop tool. Alright, just grab a chunk, hit enter, and then we'll copy it, Control A and C, close it, and we'll paste it above our roof dirt layer, Control V. Alright, and we'll just do Control T on this and rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, and we'll just move it over to our boards here. Alright, just gonna hit enter, and then let's zoom in a bit. Alright, turn our guide on. Okay, I'm just gonna take the opacity on the guide back up to 100%. So we can see it. Alright, we'll go back to our rust layer there, and I'm just going to position this so it kind of covers up most of the board. Alright, we're going to have to tile it a few times. Okay, so just do it like that, move it over to the side. And we'll cover up the top view here. Okay, and then we'll copy it again and paste it again. Alright, move that over to this side. Okay, let's flip it around, flip it horizontally. And we can flip it vertically as well. Okay. So like that, and we'll combine 2 and 3 together with Control E. Alright, and then I'm just going to scale it with Control T just so it fits the width of the boards. Alright, so they're all covered up. Okay, like that. Hit enter, and then we'll recopy it one more time and paste it. Okay, and I'm just going to move this down to the bottom here just to make sure I cover up the last deck board there. Alright, so stick it down underneath. And we don't really need to worry about the seam here. Okay, so we'll just combine 3 and 4 together now. Control E, and we'll just chop off what we don't want. Okay, so I'm going to cut it off of the end grain here. Delete it out of there. Okay, we'll go up to the top here and just turn our UVs on. Okay, and this is one of the side beams, so we'll chop it off of there as well. Delete it. Alright, turn the guide off. Alright, move down so we can see. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is just add a layer mask again. Okay, and we'll go into the channels, turn our mask layer on. And I'm just going to go over and grab black as my color and the paint bucket and just fill the layer mask with black. Okay, and then we'll jump back out here, click on our image, and with the mask selected, I'm just going to switch to white, and then we'll use a soft paintbrush here, a pretty big one. Take this up a little bit, and I'm just going to zoom in and just go around the edges of where you can see the tank here. Okay, so grab the paintbrush, just make sure your mask is active. Okay, and I'm just going to go along and just bring some of that rust back. Alright, just a bit. We don't want it to be too crazy, but we do want it to be somewhat noticeable. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you hit the middle here, you can. You're not going to see that stuff anyway. Alright, so just go down, follow the silhouette of it there. And don't worry about, the color's way too orange, obviously, but we're going to tone that down after. I'm just going to kind of get the placement set up, and then we'll tweak. Alright, let's get this end here. Alright, I think that's all of them. Oh, we gotta hit this little one here. Make sure we get that end. Alright, so let's zoom back out. Alright, and let's do a save, and we'll just check the placement and the size and see if that's going to work out, and then we'll tweak the color and make it darker. Alright, jump back over to max. We should see it down here pretty noticeably. Alright, so let's exit active shade for a sec. Alright, just going to spin around here just to make sure I got all the boards covered. We got some places over here we're going to have to take it out, but that's okay. Alright, so not too bad. Let's just turn on active shade again. We'll jump back over to Photoshop and just tone it down a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in here and just get rid of some of the places I accidentally hit it, as you can see right here I did. Okay, so I'm going to make sure the mask is active again and just switch to black. Go back to the paintbrush and we'll just remove some of this stuff we don't want here. Alright, just anything you see. And I might just take this down a little bit here so it's not out so far. Okay. And you could use a more regular paintbrush if you wanted to when you do this. It doesn't have to be a big soft brush. Alright, so just break it up a bit. Alright, let's get it off of there. Break up this a little bit. Alright, and we'll save again. Alright, back over. Okay, so not so spread out, and looks like we got rid of the parts we wanted to. Alright, just going to close the active shade window here. Take one last spin. Okay, and we'll go back. Alright, so I'm just going to take my brush down a little smaller, and I might actually switch this to something a little more regular. Let's just grab anything here, maybe this one, and I'm just going to go in and just kind of rough up some of the shape. Alright, so it's not so feathered out. Alright, maybe not that much. Alright, just a bit, just to make it look a little more natural. Take some of that away maybe. Break up the end here a little bit. Or you can even lower the opacity down a bit on the brush if you want to. Okay, so good enough. Alright, so let's fit this back to screen, save one last time, verify it quickly in Max. Alright, and we'll just turn on active shade. Okay, so that's better. It's a little more broken up and a little more of a rough edge around. Alright, so that's cool. We'll go back and just finally finish it up by just adjusting the color here. Okay, so I'm just going to select the actual image here. We'll go image adjustments and let's do maybe a levels adjust here first. Okay, I'm just going to quickly tweak this. Okay, we'll just take the black in a bit and the white in a little bit, just to make it a little more intense. Okay, say okay, and let's zoom in so we can actually see a bit better. Alright, and I'm going to do an image adjustments, hue saturation. Okay, and I'm going to darken it up. I want the stain to be quite a bit darker than it is. Okay, take that down a bit. Let's take the saturation down so it's not so orange. Alright, I'm just going for like a more of a dark brownish orange color. Alright, we'll try that. So negative 32 on the saturation, negative 33 on the lightness. Say OK, and then let's save. Take one final look. Okay, so that's better, I think. Alright, just give it one more spin, make sure everything's in the right place. Alright, you can see here that the seam on the tank is still fairly noticeable there. I'm not going to worry about it, but if you wanted to, you could take a little time and just clean that up. But I think this is good for the diffuse map. Alright, so let's turn this on. Alright, and that takes care of it, I think, so let's do a save here. Alright, jump back over, fit this back to screen, and let's just give this a name. Alright, I'm just going to call it Tank Rust Stain. Alright. Okay, so there's our finished diffuse map, and I know it took forever, but I think it came out fairly good. Alright, so we'll just save again in here, and finally we'll move on and start doing the spec and the bump map, and that won't take near as long. Alright, so we'll get started on our bump map here, and before we do that though, I'm just going to save a JPEG version of our diffuse map. Okay, so let's do that first. So we'll save as, and we'll just do water tower diffuse and do a JPEG. Alright, I'm just going to save it to my desktop again. For the quality here, I'm just going to leave it at 12, and it's on baseline, and we'll say OK. Alright, and the reason I'm doing that is just because if we start loading up multiple PSD files inside of Max, we're probably going to get some problems, maybe some I/O errors or memory errors, or I will anyway. So I'm just going to go back to Max quickly and just swap out my PSD with the JPEG version. Okay, so let's open up the diffuse map and we'll just swap this out quickly. Alright, so let's do all formats here, find our diffuse map. Okay, there it is, and we'll just open this. Alright, now let's go back up. Okay, and if you have a lot of RAM, you might not have to do this, but I'm going to do it just to be safe. Okay, so let's save again in Max, and we'll go back to Photoshop and start working on the bump map.